Banjo Ryuga is Kamen Rider Build's second protagonist, or the deuteragonist if you're feeling fancy. He's the brawn to the hero's brain, his main confidant, and totally his best match. But what makes him interesting is that Banjo isn't your typical musclehead. He's connected to something much bigger. Cosmic, even. With his spaceborne powers, he becomes an astral savant, can really throw hands that are on fire, and best of all, conjure the coolest cosmic armor as the armored hero, Kamen Rider Cross-Z. If this character concept sounds appealing to you, then you've come to the right place. In this video, we'll look over at the Cosmic Channeler, a homebrew fighter subclass that lets you channel this cosmic power into your D&D game. Hello and thank you for being here, and welcome to My Wife Is the MC. I'm DMV and I've been running D&D homebrew since 2015. Today we're kicking off 2025 with a brand new fighter subclass. This also marks the first release in the channel that supports both the 2014 and the 2024 versions of 5th edition. The character inspiration for the Cosmic Channeler is Banjo Ryuga from Kamen Rider Build. Don't worry if you're not familiar with this series, cause I'll be discussing the character concept in a more setting agnostic way. Rider fans on the other hand should get a kick out of some of the features that I'll be presenting. So, is everybody comfy at the table? Let's take pop culture to pen and paper with today's Husbando Homebrew, the Cosmic Channeler. The Cosmic Channeler is about manifesting the raw and untamed cosmic power within. While cosmic characters are often associated with sorcerers or warlocks, adapting the concept for a martial class might be a challenge. So imagine a fighter that could wield the fiery energies of space, capable of dealing damage, creating false life, and even gaining some astral knowledge. In most circumstances, I could just design the subclass as a space-themed Psy-Warrior and call it a day. But that's not how we do things in this channel. I want this subclass to inspire a cosmic-themed character, as well as represent a fan favorite from Kamen Rider Build. Luckily, the series gave me a lot to work with, and one of the major inspirations for this subclass was power armor. I know, it sounds weird going from cosmic power to merch-driven armor, but let me explain. See, the early beta versions of this subclass, membership perk by the way, had a core feature that let you conjure armor. That's how I did it with the previous Kamen Riders, so it should have been a done deal. But instead of simply summoning armor, what if you instead embodied an aspect of the cosmos? And that's what I wanted to do with the subclass. Manifesting an aspect grants a bunch of buffs that reflect a particular aspect. And for fans of the show, this also has mechanics for a finishing move. So given all of that, what kind of character can you create with a Cosmic Channeler? Well, let me tell you a story. Banjo Ryuga fends off strange monstrosities in the ruined city center. While he tries his damnedest to protect the civilians, he can't help but feel distracted by distant memories of his once simple life. His past as a rising prize fighter was spent training for the next fight, and taking all manner of odd jobs to scrape by. Every last bit of scratch mattered because someone very important to him needed constant and expensive life-saving medication. She told him to live a good life, but all he wanted was a good life with her. Those days were tough but fulfilling, until the arrival of the outsider changed everything. This crimson entity plunged the entire city into chaos. And with the power of the stars, he effortlessly turned innocents into monsters and annihilated the city's defenses. Compared to this calamity, Banjo's past struggles now feel insignificant. Unfortunately, he wasn't spared from the loss brought about by the outsider's attack. Vengeance drove Banjo to take up arms against the outsider, but perhaps it was the outsider who led Banjo to him. The entity spoke to him with an eerie familiarity, laced with a strange sense of expectation. In that first encounter, something awakened inside Banjo, a cosmic power not unlike the outsider's own. Banjo wasn't ready to finish that fight. Now, as he protects the city from the outsider's forces, he can't shake the repulsive kinship he feels whenever he wields his newfound power. Snapping back to the present, Banjo spots several civilians trapped under debris, with monsters closing in on them. Let's create a 7th level fighter. This subclass has a version for both 2014 and 2024 5th edition. Using 5e24, his stats would look like this, using the soldier background and the human species. For feats and ASIs, he gets the savage attacker from the background, tough from human, the grappler feat at level 4, and a +2 to charisma at level 6. For fighting styles, he takes the unarmed fighting feat, if only to tie it into his prize fighter history. Banjo's pseudo-dragon familiar points him to the trapped civilians. He rushes over and uses the utilize action to make a strength check, with a DC set to 15. Banjo rolls a 13 and fails, leaving the civilians trapped. If he were a regular human at least. While his physical strength may fail him, his cosmic power picks up the slack as astral flames begin to surround his arms and legs. He uses cosmic strength to add 1d6 to the check and succeeds with a roll of 3. The civilians are not out of the woods yet as the outsider's minions are fast approaching. Banjo knows he's in for a fight and manifests his cosmic aspect as part of rolling initiative. Banjo chooses the nebula aspect for a relatively low strain on his body, manifesting a dragon-like solid shell of protection around him. As his aspect fully manifests, he conjures a battle axe to slow down the approaching creatures. Banjo swings at the closest monster and knocking it on its back with a heavy hit. In spite of the blow, he feels resistance against the stuffed hide, reducing the damage. Banjo doesn't want to risk the other monster rushing to the civilians. He hits with a starburst-empowered elbow, hitting the monster straight to the temple with a flaming strike and bypassing its resistance to bludgeoning damage. He then uses his grappler feet to lock it between the haft of his axe. The two monsters change targets and lock onto Banjo, hitting him with a barrage of blows that reduce him to half his hit points. In the midst of this assault, one monster manages to land a lucky crack directly to his head for a critical hit. Seeing a lull in the attack, Banjo's armor is lit ablaze in blue fire as he changes to his accretion aspect as a bonus action. This aspect lets him use Starburst without expending any dice while bloodied. With 2 empowered swings of his axe, the monsters are destroyed in a burst of cosmic fire. Seeing an opportunity, he tells the civilians to go, but he wasn't able to spot a third monster that's fast approaching. Banjo runs as fast as he could, dashing to get up close to the monster and charging up his cosmic power. His energy pulls into his leg and lands an explosive kick right into the monster, destroying it completely. The civilians are thankful to finally find some safety, but they couldn't help but be afraid of Banjo's abilities. Afraid of the same cosmic power wielded by the outsider. You can find the Cosmic Channeler in the description, with a free version including features up to level 7. But you can get the full version for free along with all my other past and future homebrew if you join us on Ko-Fi or Patreon. You get a bunch of other perks like early access to the documents and even experimental homebrew.
Joining also puts you among these magnificent mallards you see on screen right now. Special thanks to these Mallard Royal Guards: Storm Starshine, KV, Coinop 1989, Piku, and Cosplay Battle. Thank you so much for your support.
I've got a bunch of subclasses waiting in the wings for the other Kamen Riders from Build. But if you want to play as a Kamen Rider using magic items instead, you can watch our video on Kamen Rider Build right here. Until then, thank you for being here and we'll see you in the next Husbando Homebrew.